Amen. So ladies, first of all, thank you for getting the book and reading the book.
Absolutely. Like, had to support it.
Thank you so much. So this book really stretched me because I was very honest. It was raw, and I shared some things that for a long time I was a little embarrassed to share. Mm-hmm. One of them being my suicide attempt. And I think right now that's so real because we're seeing a lot of well-known people, celebrities, people with money taking their lives. And so that's something that I share in this book. I also share my struggles with sexism, as you guys know and are aware, and some of my struggles with ministry. And of course, a personal struggle that I had with a relationship, a very long relationship that I was in. So I'm curious to know some of the parts that resonated with you. What did you guys think about the book? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I like the book a lot.
Thank you.
I felt like it was too short, almost.
Okay. Yeah,
it's
like more like a magazine.
Well, no, I mean, I was like, okay, like, I feel you, and I just kind of wanted more.
Right.
But I definitely think that you did hit home with a lot of topics, especially sexism, and then just going back to the suicide thing. I was like, whoa. I was reading it, I'm like, dang.
Did you not know that about me?
I don't remember it.
Okay.
I don't remember it.
Yeah. I do remember having a conversation with you about it.
Yeah.
But reading it just made it more real.
Right.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
So just kind of having that like inside view of what you were thinking and what you were experiencing at that time. And almost I just felt like, man, I wish I was there for you.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting because first of all, I just want to share with those that are watching that these two women are not just my friend, but they're my family. They're both my cousins. They're sisters. Our mothers are sisters. And so there's a really lasting relationship here. And so, you know, what you said is so real because we've known each other all our lives. Right. And sometimes you can know people but not fully understand what they're going through.
Right.
But just really focusing on suicide. My mother knew about this story because I shared it with her. My mother and I are very close, as you guys know. She wanted me to never tell a soul about this. And I think in the Haitian community especially, there's this false, or I guess it's like a taboo topic, suicide. And I think our mothers, especially Haitian women, were taught to bottle up our emotions. We're taught to be very strong and make the world think that we have it all together. And I can understand too as a mother how it looks bad on her that she has a child that even got to that point in her life. But I don't think that bottling up what we're going through is healthy for anybody.
Absolutely.
It's when we express it, when we realize that there are so many other people going through the same thing. And I felt, for me, sharing it in this book was very freeing.
I was going to say it's healing.
Yes.
Like, to talk about it. Like, even when I feel like I'm going through something, I feel like I have to talk about it.
Right.
Whether it's internally, like on my own private time, or if it's with Christy, you know, or you guys. But it's a healing. It's part of the healing process. So I was like shocked. Like,
and we have like long conversations that are therapeutic for me. I'm a talker. I have to talk to, and it's almost as if while I'm talking, I'm counseling myself. And by the end of the conversation, I feel better. You know, it took about 3 hours. But I do feel like when we discuss things and we express them, it's better for everybody.
There's also a pride thing. It's not only it's one of the topics that are taboo because it's a pride thing too, especially in our culture. And it's just like they're afraid to kind of not only admit but accept that this is a reality
that's happening to them. Right? It's kind of like, this can't happen to me. You know? But you're human, just like the next person. We all have serious life experiences, and none of us are exempt to what life can throw at you. So yeah, when I shared this with my mom, she was like, first of all, she wanted to like be there for me. She was so angry because, as you guys know in the book, she was in a coma when I had that experience, and it was as if like she felt like she failed me as a mother, which wasn't the case at all. Like, you were sick. But that brings me to how I feel like us as women, because we have like this natural nurturing spirit, this sort of protective characteristic about us, we make ourselves responsible for what happens in the lives of people that are close to us. Like, we automatically feel like it was my fault. You know,
what could you have done?
Exactly. And it was important for me to share with her and get her to understand, like, Mom, you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, if I didn't go through with it after God, it's because of the seed that you planted in me. Because, you know, I had that moment where it kind of didn't work out. Like, the pills fell. My dad came in and he's like, what the freak are you doing? And I'm like, I froze, you know, and then I kind of went to my room and I was like, wait a minute, you know, there's a God. I prayed, I cried, I had that moment of just expressing myself and laying it all on the altar. Not literally, but my room became an altar for me in that moment. And it's because of that seed that was planted. Church, you know? And Mom, you take credit for that. You forced me to go to church every day and to know the word for myself and to get to a point that when you could no longer be there to reach me, which is why, you know, the word when it says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is older he won't depart from it. That was so real in my life at that time, because my mom literally could not talk to me, but because she planted that seed, I was able to make the right decision.
Absolutely. I agree.
One thing that I thought was interesting was that you mentioned, I heard a voice whisper to me, you're valuable. So how important it is that, you know, because oftentimes we try to get validation from other things or other people, but kind of having that still small voice within you that kind of reinforces, hey, I'm valuable, I'm an important person, and you have a life to live. So talk about that experience a little bit more. Like, where did that, you know, in that moment, what were you thinking?
Man, I was thinking that I was the opposite. That I wasn't valuable, that my life had no worth, no meaning. And I think we all at some point in our lives, especially between like the ages 13, 14, 15, we're going through an identity crisis. As women, especially, because we all develop differently, some at a quicker pace than others. For me, when I was 13, everybody had breasts. Everybody had boobs. Y'all remember when I used to beg and now I have so much, I'm like, God, I don't want anymore. I wanted some, but not this much, right? But we're stuffing and all, like toilet tissue. You know, it was
I do.
Y'all remember those days? The other day I saw my brother, he was like, yo, remember when you like really wanted bread? Well, you got them.
Leave it to somebody.
Your prayers were answered.
He remembers too much.
He does. So anyway, I kept comparing myself to everyone. I kept feeling like I was inadequate. I kept feeling like I needed to be everything but myself. I felt like I didn't look good enough. I felt like I wasn't a good enough friend. I felt like I wasn't a good enough daughter. Because, you know, at that time my dad was starting his ministry as a pastor. That was a lot of pressure for me, because now I was entering into this role as a pastor's kid. So there were those pressures, and I didn't feel like I would ever amount to that. So for me, hearing the Spirit of God tell me I'm valuable literally changed my perspective. It made me realize that I did have something to offer to the world. And which is so true, you know, because I didn't realize I had so much in me. At that time, I didn't know that. I never knew I would pastor. I never knew that at some point I would have a family, a son, and, you know, all these amazing things. But in that moment, all I needed was someone who was greater than I to tell me that I was worth it.
And sometimes I feel like it's not even who's greater than you. For you, that was the case. But I think a lot of the times, it's just someone, period.
Sometimes
like it's like literally sometimes the randomness compliments.
Yeah, it really
or
just
right, like
lifts
I
you
could be at
up.
work and then somebody could say something to me that I didn't expect, and in a moment where I'm feeling like, man, I could be doing more or not feeling less than, and it just gives me that boost.
Right.
And I think sometimes we don't realize how just, like, you know, you hear and you see it on social media, like a compliment doesn't cost anything.
Absolutely.
Like, because it goes a long way. A lot of the times, whether we like it or not, we don't probably need to live off of it, but we do need that reminder. We do need that that encouragement, that empowerment to say, oh, you know what, you popping, like I believe in you, you're doing a good job, you're worth it, you know, or you contributed to my life, or you impacted me. For me, it wasn't in my teenage years. You guys knew I grew up really confident.
Absolutely.
My confidence, I think, for me was shaken after I got married, actually, and I think that was like just, I don't know, it was just a journey for me, just being married, and then that pressure to be a certain wife, and then I felt like I wasn't, because I wasn't working at that time. I had my kids, like I had Nyla and Shani, and my first two, and remember my body was I was so small. I was like, dang, I was like, this is not me. And because I didn't recognize what I was used to, I felt like I didn't feel like anything really. I was like, who is this person?
Absolutely.
And so for me, it didn't get to a point where you know, I felt like I needed to give up. However, I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like I knew who I was. And it wasn't up until I had certain people, certain voices that came up, and they were like, Shasha,
reassuring
you know,
of who you are.
And I think it's much needed.
And that reassurance is so important. Kudos to the person who feels like they have it all together and they're so confident and they don't need a compliment from anybody. But if we're real with ourselves, we all need a reminder every now and then.
I agree.
We need relationships, healthy relationships. We need people around us who, when we get those low moments in our lives, they'll build us back up and say, no, you're great, you're worthy, you know. And I think as women, we can get so caught up on life, you know, whether if we're a wife or we're trying to be the best daughter. I feel like as women, we have this pressure of feeling like we need to be the best person to everyone in our life. We're people pleasers, which is a chapter of my book that I share about. I just think it's an innate characteristic that we have as women to want everyone to be happy. I find myself doing it for my parents. I find myself doing it for my brother. I find myself doing it for my husband, and now for my son. We're giving so much of ourselves to people that we get burned out. And we get to a point, sometimes I just look around and I'm like, I know I'm the bomb and I just did a great job, but I need you to just tell me that. I need to hear it. You know, and it's so important. It really is. Thank God for girlfriends who, like, when, you know, the guys don't get it right, we're like, Jen, you're doing an amazing job. You know?
I had one of those moments recently, and Christy was like, girl, and she's like spitting all these positivity. Like, and I'm like, dang,
thank you. Absolutely.
Sometimes you just need to be reminded.
I know.
And you know, sometimes they don't get it. You know, they just see you doing it, and to them it's the norm. Just even think about when we were younger and our mothers, everything was always where it needed to be. There was always a meal, but we didn't realize what was going on in the background and the stresses that we were going through, but we just needed them to provide, right? And at what point does someone say to them, you know, sit down, or
take care of
you
yourself.
did a great job? We need that.
Absolutely.
I feel like recently, I want to say maybe within the last couple of years, I've been feeling underappreciated. Mostly by like some of my male siblings. And I think it's interesting because I feel like I put so much effort into making sure that they're okay, as a bigger sister, So financially, they didn't have to worry about anything, and just to kind of get, you know, feedback that maybe they're not as appreciative. And they just make it about themselves. And I just feel like, well, have you forgotten all the things that I did for you?
Seriously.
And it really could. I didn't realize that it would impact me as much as it did. Because I was like, okay, well, they're just my siblings, right? You know, they're being immature or, you know, like selfish, whatever. But it really does.
Until they're like 35, and you're like, you need to be accountable for how you made me feel. It's so true, and I think, again, no disrespect to them, or you know, my brother does it. Like, I think naturally we're gonna give ourselves, because at the end of the day, you're my brother, and I want to see the best for you.
Right.
So if I can do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's
and
just who we are.
It almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at what point do we get to a point like, you know what? I need to think about myself.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Right.
Because you don't even really realize that I'm doing this.
Right.
And maybe if I like cut it short for a while, you'll realize, oh, Christy was really doing a lot for me that I may have taken for granted. So I do think, unfortunately, we do get unappreciated, and what we do go unnoticed.
Right.
But we just have to like,
well, here's the thing.
Encourage ourselves.
When it comes to male and female, generally speaking, they are comfortable they can be selfish and be okay with that. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like, because we have the more people-pleasing syndrome, quote unquote, it's harder for us to put ourselves in a position of selfishness.
Right.
So it's like when it comes to taking care of ourselves or putting us first, and you see it all the time, even in breakups. They ready to move on. They just like, you know what? Okay, I'm out. Like, and then us, we're like, we didn't get a new boyfriend until a year later. Not only are we heartbroken, but we're thinking about them. Right? Are they okay?
Yes.
Did they need anything? You know, how are they dealing with it?
Who is he talking to someone now?
Yes.
And meanwhile, they forgot our name.
Right.
New phone. Who this?
Right.
New phone.
Right.
You're like, wow, you just, it didn't take you no time.
It's the same thing with siblings.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the characteristic with males. Yeah. And I think that's what you see that in the workplace too. And I think that's why they just comfortable asserting themselves and just putting themselves in that position because we're so worried about everyone else and everything else and how people are going to think, how people are going to look at us. So I think we have to get comfortable having our selfish moments.
I was gonna say it's so important to kind of affirm yourself and really find out who you are, like what is your identity, because you know, you can, in terms of the workplace, it's very easy for us to try to be like men, right? To try to mimic them because we think that, okay, they have the characteristics that would make a, you know, successful person go up the ranks, but we can only be ourselves, right? We can't be imitations of something that we're not, because obviously there's a disconnect there, there's going to be a lack. But I find that women that are really confident in themselves and know who they are, know what their worth is, it makes such a huge difference, and you still get to that, you know, you get up the ladder, right? You climb up that ladder and you don't have that glass ceiling because you really know what you're worth.
Exactly.
And you say it in page 31 of the book, and it says, if I did not know who I was, what I was created to do, and where I was going, all of these unfortunate events would have caused me to give up a long time ago. Identity is an important component to liberation. Identity is an important component to liberation. How you perceive yourself can either free you or enslave you. More importantly, if you do not determine who you are, if you do not determine who you are, someone else will determine that for you. And it's so true. And you see it all the time in women. That's why for me, growing up, like I said, I grew up really confident, but my confidence was shaken. It can happen at any point in time. And it depends on your mindset and how you view yourself and where you are in life. And for me, it's really important for me to instill those characteristics in my children. Male, both of them, the boys and as well as the girls. Well, my son. But I think we need to start with our kids so that they can grow up and then it becomes something that is passed down. Because what's passed down to us is what we see, and what we've experienced and what we've seen in our mothers and our aunts and the women that we've around us.
From the moment we're born,
breaking the cycle,
people are telling us who we are. From the moment as small as 3 years old, I was already being labeled. I was being labeled because I was a child that was very observant. I was always in the midst of the elders, and I was learning so quickly, and that was misinterpreted as the Haitians would say sumun. I really don't know how I would interpret that and translate that in English. Maybe too open, if you will.
Maybe.
But on people, it's really the exact translation. But if you could understand, essentially, so I got the sumun, then too grown, because I was maturing very quickly. I got spoiled. Just so many labels that were being thrown, and all of those things, really, if you don't get to a point in your life where you decide for yourself who you're going to be, other people will decide that for you, because you will start to walk in the truth of what they have put on you. So now I start thinking, am I someone? Am I like too? And then I just adapt that, like, I'm someone, and I'm, and I had to put my foot down. And I hope there's a story I remember. Now we can laugh about it, but at the time, like, it was a hard conversation. Another label that I had was that I wasn't the brightest star. I wasn't as intellectual or as smart. And it was funny when I was younger, but as I got older and I really started learning and I really started growing my intellect, I didn't want that label on me anymore. And as cousins, it's natural. Like, that's just the way we're like, Jem would be using words wrong and everything. And I will never forget, I think at this time I was in college at this point, and I think you may have said something like, we know how you get with words or something like that. And I was like, I don't like that anymore. I think that's really how I told her. I said, that used to be me, but that's not me anymore. And at the moment, it rubbed you the wrong way, because then it's not even your fault. When we're so used to something, we expect that to be the person all the time, not realizing that we evolve. I'm an evolution of myself.
And what I didn't realize is that you were forcing yourself. You were changing. And I didn't realize that. Like, I remember you, Jen, when we were growing up. And then we had like gaps in period of time where we were not as connected. We were, of course we loved each other.
Absolutely. But we weren't communicating as much.
And then so when I would interact with you, I'm like,
who is that?
Wow, this is a whole new woman. Like,
and I'm so glad you brought that up. Like, to another point, evolution is such a funny thing. It's healthy for us, but for the people who've known us, they interpret it as us being fake. Because one of my other struggles as I was on this journey of evolution and bettering myself as an individual, there were people in my life who were like, you acting brand new. Like, you're fake. Like, you're so spiritual, like, you don't remember. And
that wasn't me, though.
No, not and I make that clear. Not you. No. Other people in my life. I think you've always been very supportive. That was just like one little funny thing that I remembered. And she tried to check me, because she's always been like the older one. She was like, first of all, I'm like, it's just not me anymore. But no, I think all of us have experienced that at some point. Like, we're on this journey of growth, and people are still like holding on to who you used to be. That's been a struggle for me. Trying to, like, because you love your family, you love your day ones, as you call it, and you want to hold on to them. But sometimes if you're on a journey and people refuse to accept where you're trying to go, you have to leave them behind.
You do.
And that's the hardest part.
It's difficult. It's very difficult.
It's very difficult, and it was a challenge for me. It had to get to a point where I had to just agree, like, we don't get along, and we're not going to. And it's unfortunate, but I'm not going back to the person I used to be.
That's what we call those MIA moments. You're missing an action in their lives, because you do have to grow and experience, and something has to resonate for you to say, you know what, I need to figure out what I'm doing in my life. What is God asking of me? What am I doing? What's my journey supposed to look like? What path am I taking? And we go through those moments. Whether or not you acknowledge it or not, you're going through it. Because one day you'll look back and then you'll realize, whoa. Like, oh, that's what was happening.
And at the end of the day, other people are going to do what's best for them. So they're going to make their decisions. They're going to go and get married and move on, and kind of forget about you in some instances. So you really have to kind of just focus on yourself and figure out, like,
Absolutely.
man, what is best for Christella? What
Yeah.
is best for Jen or
Yeah.
Shasha?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have to kind of, that's what I'm working through right now.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out,
see
like,
it.
Yeah,
I
me
see it.
too.
I do. I see it.
Yeah.
Me and Jen was
And it's a
talking
good
about that
thing.
briefly. It is a good thing.
And it goes back to, because even we all have our selfish ways.
Yeah.
I'm so used to Christy saying yes to everything that I like ask her to do. And recently, because I see that you're trying to focus on your own goals, she's like, yeah, I can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Let's talk about this. You don't say no to me. But, you know, and it's people in your life who truly love you. They're like, you know what, I gotta give her her space.
Give her her space. Yeah.
She can't babysit AJ, that's fine. She's working on
Mm-hmm.
getting her house. Like,
I love her.
my godson. Yes, I'm sure you do. But we do get to that point where
here.
we're always giving, and
she
we
will call
gotta
me
feel like
every day.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like,
getting the phone
"Yo, I didn't hear from Christy in like 3 days. Like, what happened?"
And it's your fault that we talk for hours when we finally do talk. Like, we have so much to talk
catch up on.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's a process.
It is.
And we all have to go through it. And it's an important process. And it's a process that's going to help us not only recognize who we are.
Right.
And of course, if you're a Christian, what God is asking of you.
Absolutely.
But it's a process that's going to redirect your life possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
It is.
So,
It's key.
Along with that comes fear too, right? So if you're entering into either a new phase in your life or you're trying to explore different things, but you get comfortable with the past as well, right? You get comfortable with the people that's in your life and kind of the routines and you know, things that you've been doing with that person. And for me, I'm trying to find a balance between the two, because for some reason, I feel like, especially with social media and people's attentions, you get forgotten very quickly, like very easily. They forget everything that you've done or, you know, your relationship. And so in trying to balance that, in addition to finding your own self and figuring out where you're supposed to be in this world and what your purpose is, I think that's kind of something that I struggle with. But at the same time, I have to, like, remember that, hey, I only have one life.
Emotional?
No,
I
just a little nervous.
no,
but really, it's just I have this one life. I have to take care of myself.
You do, absolutely.
You do need to focus.
And the thing about it is, like, we support you, like, for sure.
100%.
Like
I mean, you know that. I'm sure you know that from the both of us.
Yeah.